Hey, I'm Nate Savage with Guitario, and I am here with David Becker today. We've been recording, well, Dave's been recording some series on triads, and I remember when I first learned about triads from a book, I had no idea why I was learning them. It was confusing to me, it took me forever to learn them, and I had no reason for doing it, so it took me forever. It was terrible. But David mentioned something today that's like, I wish somebody would have told me that. It was a really cool application for triads, and I just wanted him to share that with you so you can have some kind of perspective on how to use triads. And then he's going to show you a really cool exercise for getting to know and move triad shapes up and down the fretboard.
So basically, Nate, what's interesting about triads is that we think of them as just being these little chords, little nice little sounds, and use them when you're comping, and maybe once in a while you try to find a melody, but really our musical system is based on triads. We have major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Those are our colors in the rainbow. All the combinations of those triads make up all these, complicated chords like major sevens and dominant sevens and these, sharp nines and flat fives. So what I did is I took just a chord scale, just the C major chord scale, which is C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G 7, A minor 7, and B half diminished. And within those 4-note chords, they are made up of 2 triads. So the C major 7 is made up of a C major. In this case, the third is up an octave, and an E minor. The D minor 7 is made up of a D minor and an F major. E minor 7 is made up of E minor and G major. The next chord, F major 7, is made up of an F major and an A minor, and the G7, the blues chord, is made up of a G major and a B diminished. You can hear that blues sound. A minor 7 is made up of A minor and C major, and then the half diminished, so I'll play it down here as well so you see a little easier, is made up of a diminished triad and a minor, D minor. So that's how we spell those. It's kind of like when you spell words, if you spell the word cafe, how do you spell that? Okay, most people C-A-F-E, but it could be K-A-F-F-E-E, or it could be C-A-F-F-E-E. I've seen it all different ways. The idea of the word is not the spelling, it's the sound, it's the pronunciation. It's cafe, it's the 2 sounds. So C major 7 is C major, and that E minor is important because when you hear that major 7, you really, the C itself is very little to do with the sound of the major 7. Same thing with the G7. That G7 sound, that diminished, really gives you the sound of the chord.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of guys will play this shape, this diminished shape, as a G7 and not play the root, which is perfect, So anyway, what I did is I put together a way to see the neck with these triads in a key. Because if you don't have a way to put them together, it's like going to the buffet and you order steak and you go pasta and wow, fish and salad. Boy, that crab leg looks great, but your plate is so full. And you go, great, I've got all the food on my plate, what do I do with it?
Right.
You have to put it into context, otherwise you'll get indigestion. And we don't want that. So here's what you do. In the key of C major, the triads move with each other, not diatonically like C to D minor, but what happens is I can move this triad, the C major, I can do one of 2 things. I can raise the 5th and still be in the key of C, which makes me go to A minor, or I can lower the root, which would go to E minor. And those 2 triads are in the key of C, but I want to move up because I want to see how the neck moves upwards. Right. So I'm going to raise the 5th, and the 5th happens to be, in this case, on the top string. Now, there's a pattern that's going to form, and this pattern will always work, regardless of the inversion. So in this case, I raise the 5th of C major, and now I have A minor. Now, the 5th of this chord is now not on the top string, but it's in the middle string. So A minor, I'm going to raise the 5th, which is this E note here, to F, and now I get F major. So I have C, A minor, F major. Now the bottom string is going to be the next one up. That's going to be from here, the F major. The 5th is now in the base of the chord. Move that up to D minor. So I have this, C major, A minor, F major, D minor. And you can hear that's all a key of C. It sounds like a nice cadence. Top note gets moved again because we're starting over with our pattern. So now it goes up here to B diminished. Middle string moves up and we've got G major. Bottom string moves up and we're E minor, top string moves up, and we're back to C. And a whole octave of a scale, but the scale is not going diatonically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What's happening diatonically is Sounds very musical.
Pretty, yeah.
And if you play them, you can play them as chords, which is fine. This is like snow on a mountain top or ice. Also, make them flow like a river. So they're going to melt. And that's how you use them. And you'll actually do them on all sets of strings. So I did them on the top strings. You can do them on the bottom strings, the middle strings. So here's C major, A minor, F major, D minor, B diminished, G major, E minor, C. And I keep going up. Next octave, here's A minor. Then we've got F, D minor, B diminished, G major, E minor, and so forth. So what's happening is when you start to do this, you're seeing the diatonic movement, but you're seeing them in shape. So whenever I'm on a note and I want to play something in C, I know that there's a G here, I know that there is a B diminished here, I know that there's a D minor here, I can see there's a G. So I'm not limited to just... There's a lot of black holes when I do that,
Yeah.
but here there are no black holes. I can do the whole neck, like I'll start down here on C. There's the first possible C on the first fret, right? I use the open strings. There's the A minor, there's F, there's D minor, there's B diminished, there's G, there's E minor, there's C, where we started before. So you see there's all options are there for me to play. And I'm going up. And two octaves, no black holes.
Right. This is a great example and like a point for me where I am in my playing, because typically when I'd practice triads, I either practice a chord scale,
Right.
or a progression throughout,
Right.
you know, like G, C, D, for example, or
Right.
C, G, F,
Right.
in the key of C, up the neck, and I'm like, okay, I can do that, that's fine.
Right.
But this covers, it's a different way to cover every diatonic chord in the key.
It is.
While I'm working my way up the fretboard, like you
Right.
said, with no black holes.
And what you want to do with this is to really apply it logically, is take a chord out of the key of C. Let's take G7.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll just put a G7 in my loop here. So here's my loop. And I'll play, I said that G7 is G major and B diminished, so I'll play those. But I can also add the D minor, E minor. So that whole movement, going from this to this to this to this, which we did in that cadence, they all work over G7. Here's C, F. Another thing too that would be good to do is just take the root triad of that dominant 7, G major, and play a whole step down the F. Because that contains 6 of the 7 diatonic notes that are in that chord. And so you can isolate it like that, but you also have the other options of getting the chord tones. And never forget too that what's important is the intervals that are inside those inversions. Take a look at that. That B diminished up here, there's a tritone. There's a fourth in that G. So get to know those intervals really well so that when you're targeting notes, you're going to be able to play them. And you're not going to get lost in a key where you're suddenly like, I don't know where I'm at.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, David. I know this is going to help my playing a lot, and for you guys out there who've been playing for a long time but maybe never understood how triads worked or what they can do for your playing, this is going to be something that is going to be really beneficial for you to dig into. And if you want to check out the entire course that David did today, actually, it'll be up on Guitario very soon. We'll see you there.